let's get chatting. Van life, van builds, lithium ion phosphate batteries, all of that good stuff. Get some people jumping on here. It'll be fun. Okay. There we go. Let's go. Off-grid power, van life, van builds, van conversions. Get some people jumping on here. Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you are new here, if you don't know who we are, what we're about, we convert vans. We do all things related to off-grid power, setting up lithium ion phosphate batteries, all that sort of good stuff. Any questions, drop them down in the comments and we'll pick those up and have a bit of a chat. But yeah, otherwise we got a shipment of new battery management systems. So these are Daly BMSs, and probably one of our preferred brands for BMS. They're really cost effective and really versatile, and have a whole bunch of options depending on what you need to do and what your requirements are for your van conversion, all that sort of stuff. So like this little guy here, that little guy is a 100 amp Daly BMS, and it's really quite dinky actually. And then you got this guy here who's the 200 amp hour BMS, much more capacity, double the capacity on that guy. And this isn't even the biggest one that they do. I think the biggest one they do is a 500 amp BMS, so it's a really good BMS. Where am I based? So I'm based in Northern Ireland, but my dad, who's part of Off-Grid Van Life, he is based over in England. My accent is not Northern Irish, though, in case you didn't pick that up. So I was actually born in Zimbabwe. That's where I grew up. And that's where sort of our passion for van life, off-grid power, sort of overlanding, adventure, vehicle-based adventure travel, all that sort of stuff, kind of spurred out of the lifestyle that we lived in Africa. So we grew up packing things into a Land Rover and then hitting the road and going out into the bush for a couple of weeks and not seeing another soul. That's the type of lifestyle that we lived when we were in Zim. And yeah, it was a great lifestyle. Unfortunately, Zimbabwe took a turn for the worst. If you're not aware of the history, and that's another story for another day. But yeah, it was great while it lasted. But having said that, there's so many beautiful places to see in the world, and we love travel. One of the best trips that we've done since we immigrated to the UK from Zim was that we kitted out and drove my parents' camper van all the way to Bulgaria and back to the UK. So that was a pretty epic trip, going through like France, Italy, ferried across down to Greece, then drove up from Greece into Bulgaria, and then drove back up through Eastern Europe, so Romania, Hungary, Austria, all that sort of stuff. And we've done winter trips to Austria to go skiing and motorhomes and stuff like that. So do a lot of that sort of stuff and have done over the years. We've been doing this for years and years, and kind of just generated the passion for it and just love the lifestyle around it and love tinkering. I mean, one of my favorite things is just preparing for the trips. I almost almost have a preference for the preparation for these sort of trips than the actual going on them. I just love kitting out a camper van and tinkering with things and playing with the battery stuff and all that sort of stuff. So I love it. What's my favorite brand of power tool? Somebody's fixing to start a fight on this live this evening. I'm just joking. So my favorite brand of power tool is a DeWalt. And I don't know, to be honest, I don't know why. I think it just kind of happened. I think I was given a drill for a birthday or Christmas or something like that. And it was one of those things where once you get into a system, to move out of it is so difficult. So you see these videos here on TikTok and YouTube and stuff where guys compare Makitas with DeWalt and everything else to see which impact driver can drill a screw into a big log the fastest and stuff like that. And generally I think it's probably Milwaukee that probably takes the cake when it comes to that sort of thing. But once you're committed and you have one or two power tools, it doesn't really make sense to then buy a different brand and be in a different battery system and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I've just kind of stuck with DeWalt. Certain power tools I'll just get a corded version and whatever's on special. Depends how much I'm going to use it. I mean, hand power tools like this are super handy and use them so much that I would probably spend a bit more money on those sort of things. So yeah. But having said that, even because I already have old stuff, I don't want to be replacing it and changing battery systems and stuff like that. But if you are into anything involving vehicles like vans and van life, that sort of thing, this power tool here is one I got recently. This is one of my favorite power tools that I've ever owned. It's an impact driver, but it's I don't even know all the details of it. But this is obviously just your conventional impact driver for screws and stuff. But this guy here, I can't remember what the torque rating on this, but it's quite powerful. It has a 1/2 inch driver on the front of it there, and like I'll take the wheels off my van with this and all sorts. Even when I travel, if I go on long trips, I definitely take this off. If you're on the side of a highway or something, you don't want to be messing around with a breaker bar trying to take all the bolts off manually, or the nuts off your wheels to change a tire and stuff like that. You just get that guy out and do it really fast. This is a great tool, and it's really not that expensive compared to what you'd think. I think it was like £200 or something like that. So for what you get out of it, that's a great tool, and being cordless is really good. So yeah, I really like that. Definitely recommend that. Any other questions? Thanks for following, guys. That's great. Yeah, so I started off, I mentioned there, we've got to have some people join since then. We got a new shipment of Daly BMS has come in. So we decided that we were going to stock a few of them just to offer to our customers for when we convert vans and build out vans for people. Also, we will sometimes build out battery systems for people and stuff like that and sell the battery systems and that. So we decided we'd get a bit of a stock of BMSs, but part of it also is just to help people out. So if you haven't ever gone down the route of buying stuff from Alibaba or AliExpress or something, then you won't have experienced the pain of having to wait like 6 to 8 weeks or even longer sometimes if there's delays and stuff. So like that issue with the Suez Canal and stuff, that backed things up as well, and all those sort of things. So yeah, I mean, if you're waiting for stuff out of China, it can take ages. So we decided we'd stock a few of these things on our web store that people could buy locally and price them at a really good price for a UK based reseller. So got a bunch of these on our website, on our web store, just to save people the hassle of having to wait like 8 weeks to get one out of China. So if you're in a pinch and you need one locally, we'll ship it within 24 hours. But yeah, these are great BMSs. So this little guy here is a 100 amp BMS. And so the measurement on that is basically how much power can pass through them. So that has a whole bunch of smarts, the circuitry, and a bit of a computer system inside these BMSs. And what they're for is to balance a lithium iron phosphate battery bank. So a lithium iron phosphate battery bank is what this guy over here is. So you got 4 battery cells there. So you join it all up with cables that look like this, and you basically put those on each of the terminals and it plugs into the BMS, and then that makes sure that they all stay the same sort of voltage. It just helps with the lifespan of the battery cells. So if you keep them at a constant voltage, and then it also adds some protection to stop you from discharging or charging the cells too much, because if you do that with batteries, then you destroy them and they'll never hold charge again. So that's basically what a BMS is, and the different ratings on them is that essentially you can draw different power through it because the power passes through the system. So these connect onto the outside negative terminal on the BMS and then into your source, so where your power is going to in your van or boat or whatever, and then so the power is passing through this. So they just rate it so that you have the right size for your needs. And essentially the sizing means that you can run an inverter or something, and whether you can run a coffee machine or whether you're just going to have a smaller inverter that'll just run like a laptop or something small like that. That's basically why you would size it up. So if you want to be able to run a pretty big inverter that you can run like an espresso machine or something like that, or if you want to be able to run a blow dryer or hair curlers or something like that to be able to curl your hair, then you are going to want a more substantial inverter, and you'll want the bigger BMS to be able to do that. So yeah, we got a shipment this week of some new battery cells out of China as well that we're going to be testing. So if you want to keep an eye on that. Follow our YouTube, so subscribe to YouTube. We're going to be putting in some unboxing videos and things like that on YouTube this week, so that'll be quite fun. We're going to be building out those batteries over the coming weeks just to test them, and we're going to run similar comparison tests as what we did previously. So if you've been following us for a month or so, or a couple of months, you'll have seen some of the capacity testing we've been doing on the batteries. And all of that is all just to find a decent source of a Chinese supplier of those batteries so that we can then recommend it to people. So you would have seen, if you joined the live last week, I was talking about how we had written a review on those previous cells. And overall, this is a set of them here. Overall, they're still very good value for money, but we probably wouldn't recommend them because the stated capacity that the reseller sells them at is not what they actually are. So we were buying 300 amp hour battery cells, but actually in reality they're 280 amp hour. So I mean, like I said, it's still very good value for money, but it's not the stated capacity. So if you're okay with being a little bit lower than what they actually advertise, then that's fine. But if you want some surety on what you're getting, then you should probably buy a different brand. But yeah, so the new cells we got this week are from Eve, which is a very well-known, well-established and well-reviewed battery cell manufacturer. So we're going to be testing those over the coming weeks to see what they look like. We're also going to be doing some trips in our vans as well. Now that lockdown's starting to lift here in the UK and in Northern Ireland, we're going to be doing some trips. Got some stuff planned. My toddlers are busy hankering to get into the camper van and go for a trip somewhere. Are the 300 more expensive than the 280? Yeah, so we the cells that we got delivered today, are they even 300? I can't remember what capacity they are. 285 amp hour maybe. Either way, yeah. So these ones, this reseller, we asked them, are these so initially we'd contacted him about buying some 285 amp hour cells from him, and he wrote back to us and said no, he doesn't have any, but he has some 300 amp hours in stock, and they're slightly more money. So I think the 285s were like $82 per cell, something like that, and then these ones were like $94 per cell plus shipping. So if you get 4 of them, plus you pay probably $150 to ship them from China. So you're talking about around about $500 or thereabouts to land them in the UK. And so yeah, I mean, essentially he whether he knew it or not, he sold us 285 amp hour cells, but they were advertised as 300 amp hour, or 280 amp hour cells advertised as 300. And by advertising them as 300, he charged a little bit more. So whether he knowingly did that or whether it was the manufacturer and he just didn't do proper due diligence and test them himself, whatever the case was. So sometimes these resellers do pull fast ones on people. So that's kind of why we're going through the process of testing some of these cells and getting together a good list of recommendations, and also the opposite of people that we would recommend that you avoid, just to save people the hassle and the heartache, because it does become a really drawn out, frustrating process. So if you think about it, you place an order with you start doing the research and you look at it and you find the cells that you want, and then you talk to the person. It takes you probably a week to land the order with somebody from Alibaba and get the money paid and all that sort of stuff. It takes them another week or so, sometimes more, to actually ship the product, because sometimes they actually don't have it in stock. They have to get it from the manufacturer. Sometimes they are actually being manufactured, and stuff like that. So maybe it takes you a couple of weeks to actually go through that whole process and actually get the cells actually shipped, and then you have to wait 6 to 8 weeks for them to land on your door. And then, so let's just say that's 2.5 months that you've waited from when you made the decision that you were going to get those cells. You then build out your battery, run some tests for a week or so. You're nearly 3 months in before you realize actually they're not what the stated capacity was and what the manufacturer advertised. So it's just a long drawn out process that can be super frustrating for people. So that's partly why we are going through this process, is to help people with resourcing. so that you have that list of, okay, these guys are great, they're probably a little bit more expensive. These guys, their cells performed well, not at the stated capacity, but they're still good value for money, and then absolutely avoid these guys like the plague. So that's kind of the process that we are running, and we've got a bunch of free resourcing on our website, just articles and blogs and stuff that talk about this sort of thing, how to find good cells and what we recommend and stuff like that. So yeah. What's going on down here? Lots of people joining the live there and following us. Thank you for that. Yeah, so this is one of our favorite BMSs that we've used quite a lot. The one thing that I have found with these, though, that people just have to be wary of and just watch when they're buying these Daly BMSs. I mean, when we first started getting into it and we started buying these BMSs initially, we made this mistake, but it's quite easy to buy the older version of this BMS which doesn't have Bluetooth enabled. Which then, I mean, it's not the end of the world, because it still does its job, still does what it's supposed to. You can still, it'll still protect your cells, but it just means that you then can't look at it on your cell phone, on your iPhone or your Android or something, to be able to see what the cells are doing, what the voltages are, set the parameters, all that sort of stuff. And so we actually have one of these knocking around. The first one we ever bought was the original Daly, and we didn't realize at the time that it didn't have the plug to be able to plug in your Bluetooth dongle. So when you buy these guys, the Bluetooth version, you get one of these, which is just a Bluetooth dongle. It just has a plug on the end that goes into the BMS, and this is what enables you to be able to connect your phone to this to see what's going on. So to see the battery voltages, to set the thresholds, to monitor how much of your battery is remaining, what the voltages are, the state of charge, all that sort of stuff. So I was chatting to a guy the other day on Instagram who was asking me advice, and one of the things that I said to him is, make sure that your Daly BMS that you've ordered is definitely the one that can do Bluetooth, because otherwise you'll end up having built your battery and then trying to figure out how to connect your phone to it, and you're not going to be able to connect your phone to it. So yeah, we made that mistake right at the beginning of using these Daly BMSs. And it's a bit frustrating, because then you go through the whole process of having to wait for ages to get another one from China. So, because there's not, in the US they're a bit more accessible. In the US you can get them on Amazon, but here in the UK they are a little bit more tricky. That's part of the reason why we got a batch of them, was to help people out to be able to get one faster if they needed to. So yeah, and then been talking to the manufacturer about the active balancer that I tried to put in a couple of weeks ago. So if you've been following us for a couple of weeks, I tried to put an active balancer onto my battery in my camper van to see if that would help with the problem that I've been having with that. And I've got another set of replacement balancers coming in the post, so they should be here next week or the week after. So when I get those, I'm going to put them into my camper van and just see if that makes any difference to the issue that I've been facing. So essentially, my battery in my camper van, just like that one behind me, has 4 cells, and one of the cells is just not keeping up the same voltage as the others, so it's slightly weaker than the others. So what these BMSs do is that they are what you call passive balancing devices. So they only balance your battery cells when you're discharging them or when you're charging them. So if you charge your battery to a full state of charge, as the cells settle and they start discharging, it's only when they're discharging that it'll actually balance them. And sometimes it's only when they reach a certain threshold, whereas an active balancer will constantly be balancing and moving charge between the cells to make sure that they all maintain the same voltage. Is it really easy Is it easy to install the Bluetooth feature? Yeah, as long as you have the right BMS, it is easy to install the Bluetooth feature. So it's just a case of plugging this guy in, and there's nothing, no plug, no switch or anything on this to configure it. Just it'll turn on as soon as you plug the actual Bluetooth receiver, the dongle on, and then you just need to download the app, the Daly BMS app, from the App Store, the Google Play Store, and then connect to it from there. So it's pretty straightforward. It's not that difficult. If anyone that can use TikTok can or YouTube could do it for sure. It's probably one of the easier parts of actually installing the BMS. But one thing to bear in mind though is I think you have to pay for the Bluetooth dongle separately as well if you're buying directly from Daly in China, which that catches people out as well, because they don't necessarily realize they may buy the BMS itself and it may be enabled for Bluetooth by having the plug on it, but if they don't buy the dongle, then they have to go through the process of just buying that and shipping that out of China, which that can be a bit of a frustration. We decided we got just the Bluetooth version because, I mean, the cost difference between the Daly BMS, the Bluetooth option, and the non-Bluetooth option is really minimal. So like I can't remember the figures, but it's really not a huge cost difference for the ability to be able to see what's going on with your battery on your phone. It's a no-brainer to get the BMS that has the Bluetooth on it. And I think the Bluetooth version is actually newer anyway, so it makes sense just to get the newer version. And so I don't know why anyone would buy the one that doesn't have Bluetooth. Supposedly it's more reliable and that sort of thing, but Daly went through a phase last year where they had a few issues with the Bluetooth version, and it was just all around sort of teething problems around innovation and building out new products and that sort of thing. And so they got some flack on forums and that type of stuff, but around the end of last year they turned a corner and they released new batches that were really good, and these ones are so all of the ones that we've got have been from the new batches that they released last year, and they've been rock solid. They've been really reliable. Do we sell them? Yeah, on our website, on the online store, you can find both the 100 amp BMS and the 200 amp BMS, and we'll ship those within 24 hours of the order being placed, and it'll be a fast shipping as well. We'll ship all over Europe as well, so anyone that doesn't want to wait for 8 weeks to get one out of China, we can get it to you, and depending on where you are in Europe, probably a few days. Yeah. Cool. Well, this has been fun. I think I'm going to call it there. Keep a lookout on our YouTube. As I mentioned, we're going to be putting out some unboxing videos for some Eve cells that we got that arrived today or yesterday actually. So we're going to be putting out an unboxing video probably on Friday. So if you want to see what that looks like, how the manufacturers or the resellers in China ship these prismatic cells, then that'll be interesting for you to see. We'll probably cover a few things, just first impressions of them. Eve are very good lithium ion phosphate batteries. So we're quite excited to get stuck into those. It's the one brand we've not actually worked with yet, so we're going to be getting stuck into that. And then I've also got some Lithium cells which are arriving next week or the week after. So we're going to be testing those and building out some batteries for those as well. And then we're going to be doing a bunch of traveling in the camper now that lockdown is lifting over here in Northern Ireland. So it's going to be a good time. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning into the live tonight. Apologies for my voice. My toddler went back to school last week after the Easter holidays and brought back the lurgy from school. It's definitely not corona, so that's good. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week. We'll do this every week. I'm enjoying these lives, so yeah, thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys next week. Cheers.